Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. Amen. Don't forget, let us take out our phones. We are a social media church. Take them out. Tweet and tweet. Make some comments on the page or on your page. We give God glory on this morning. I want to begin this morning by saying Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day. We want to welcome all of you to Mother's Day, and we thank you so much for worshiping with us. We thank everyone that is joining us online today on Mother's Day. And I want to ask this question. How many of you here have or have had at any point in your life a mother? Now, some of you were like, we all have had a mother, right? We all have. Mother's Day is really kind of something universal because we've all got here by what? A mother. On last week, I started a new series titled God of the Movement. But today is Mother's Day, so I'm going to not continue that series on today. I will pick it up on next week. Because today I want to talk to you about a mother's heart. A mother's heart. And we can see how the heart of a mother is shown in the story that I'm going to share with you today, found in 1 Samuel, the first chapter, the 8th through the 18th verse. And you can bring that up. And I'm going to read it. Elkanah says to his wife Hannah, "Why are you crying and not eating? Why are you so sad, Hannah? Don't I love you more than any 10 sons could?" One day after they had ate and drank at Shiloh, Hannah got up and presented herself before the Lord. It so happened that the priest Eli was sitting in the place of honor besides the doorpost of the Eternal's congregation tent. As Hannah entered, she was heartbroken, and she began to pray to the Eternal One, weeping uncontrollably as she did. Eternal One, Commander of heavenly armies, if only you will look down at the misery of your servant and remember me. Oh, don't forget me and give your servant a son. Then I promise I will devote the boy to your service as a Nazarite all the days of his life. He will never touch wine or other strong drink, and no razor will ever cut his hair. As she prayed silently before the Eternal One, the priest Eli watched her mouth. Hannah's lips were moving. But since she was praying silently, he could not hear her words. So Eli thought she was drunk. How long are you going to continue drinking, making a spectacle of yourself? Stop drinking wine and sober up. My Lord, I am not drunk on wine or any strong drink. I am just a woman with a wounded spirit. I have been pouring out the pain in my soul before the Eternal One. Please don't consider your servant some worthless woman just because I have been speaking for so long out of worry and exasperation. Go, don't worry about this anymore. And may the true God of Israel fulfill the petition you have made to him. May your servant be favored in your sight. Then Hannah rose and went back to where she was staying. The sadness lifted from her, and she was able to eat. Today, all over the United States, people are celebrating motherhood. Stores are filled with customers and florist shops are packed. Mothers are receiving flowers and gifts from loved ones who are acknowledging this special day called Mother's Day. This society has strong feelings towards this concept of motherhood. When a young couple gets married, they often hear the phrase, "Be fruitful and multiply." Women are expected to bear children, but when this doesn't occur, tension and stress rises up in the relationship because somebody starts feeling guilty, wondering if it's their fault. Motherhood is so significant to this culture that scientists have derived methods to produce children. We have test tube babies. We have a scientific method that takes an egg from a wife and the sperm from a husband, places it in a dish, and the doctors wait for it to make a connection so that it can be put back into the uterus of the woman, hoping that it will grow into a fetus. This procedure costs thousands of dollars each time that it is done, and women all over the world are paying for this procedure to be done just to enter motherhood. Women all over the country, married as well as single, are adopting babies in order to fulfill the deep desire within their hearts to be a mother. We know, ladies, that when we get to a certain age, we start worrying about our biological clock. And that usually is because we are concerned about being able to have children. I shared my story on last week, how I had difficulty getting pregnant. I shared on last week that I had 22 pregnancy tests. I had tracks up and down my arm because I wanted to be a mom. And when I stopped thinking about being a mom or thinking about getting pregnant, guess what happened? I got pregnant. With Brandon Lee Gilchrist, I have 2 bouncing baby boys. After Brandon came Drake Elmon Gilchrist. In the setting of our text today, we have another story about a woman named Hannah who wanted to be a mom. Hannah was a part of a culture that also placed great significance on motherhood. Hannah was married to a man named Elkanah, who loved her very much. But Hannah had a problem. She was barren and couldn't have children. Hannah's husband had to marry another woman, and her name was Peninnah. This broke Hannah's heart because it took a second wife that was able to bear children. Those that are familiar with Old Testament Bible stories know that whenever there was more than one woman involved, there was always a problem. I recall the story of Abraham and Sarah. Do you remember what happened in that story? For those that might know these Old Testament stories, well, Sarah could not have children, and she gave her Egyptian maidservant Hagar to Abraham, and Ishmael was born, and that was a problem. For eventually Sarah said, "Abraham, hold up, brother, hold up, wait a minute, she's gotta go." And that was a problem. I even recall the story concerning King Solomon, King Solomon had a problem. King Solomon had, according to the story, King Solomon had 700 wives and 300 concubines. Now, you know that had to be a mess up in there. That just, let's be honest, that had to be a mess. Solomon had disobeyed God concerning all those women, and the women ended up turning Solomon's heart away from God. Whenever there is more than one woman involved with one man, there's always going to be a problem. Say this with me, that's a problem. We must understand what Hannah was going through. Barrenness in the Old Testament was looked on as a curse or a punishment from God. Hannah was grieving because she was not the wife that would produce offspring that would continue her husband's family line. To the Hebrews, children were considered gifts from God. They also were symbols of status and wealth. If a man had many children, he was considered blessed. Hannah was grieving because now the other woman would take her place and give her husband children and enter motherhood. Now we need to take a look at Elkanah's second wife, Peninnah. She was vicious. She was a vicious woman. She was jealous because she knew that Elkanah loved Hannah, so she would laugh at Hannah because she couldn't have children. In the story, once a year, Elkanah would take his family to Shiloh to worship and make sacrifice. During the period of this time, Shiloh was the religious center of the Hebrew nation. And it was a place of importance because it housed the Ark of the Covenant. The Ark of the Covenant was the sacred chest that contained the 2 stone tablets that had been known as the 10 Commandments according to the story. Hannah's husband would also give presents during this time to Peninnah and her children, but could only give Hannah one present, for the scripture says that the Lord had sealed her womb, and she had no children to give presents to. Every year, this journey would take place, and every year Hannah would cry, and her heart would be heavy from the humiliation and torment she would receive from her husband's second wife. Hannah became troubled, and she stopped eating. How many have been in that same place where you have been so troubled by something, some kind of situation that just had you down, and you stopped eating? Or maybe I should say, most of us probably never stopped eating. We did what? We ate more because we were troubled. Her husband, Elkanah, became concerned. He didn't want Hannah to be sad, so he thought he would try to cheer her up. It came to her. He came to her and he tried to say, you know, in his I can just imagine this, in his manly, his manly voice. He probably, got real deep and said, "Yo, baby, yo, baby. Why are you making all this fuss about having children? You know I love you. You know that you're my main squeeze." I can just imagine. Just imagine with me. Yo, baby. It's okay. It's okay. Now, Hannah probably bruised his ego because it didn't help her. She still wanted to have a child. Hannah realized that the only way that her present situation was going to be changed was that she had to seek God for herself. How many have been there when you have gotten so down and it seems like there was just nothing else? There was nowhere else to turn, and all you knew is what you had to do was you had to go to God. That's what Hannah did. She didn't go to TD Bank. She didn't go to Bank of America. She didn't go to Starbucks. She didn't go to anything else, no chocolate candy or anything nothing was going to soothe her. So what she did was she went to God. She went to her source. She went to her provider. As the story continues, one evening after dinner, while they were still in Shiloh, Hannah ran to the tabernacle to see God. Hannah needed divine intervention. She needed to be touched by God because nobody was going to be able to fix this situation but the Lord. Hannah began to pray. She was in deep anguish and she was crying unconditionally, uncontrollably. How many can witness to that? Being in a moment in your life that you just started crying. Has anybody been there? You couldn't even stop the tears. Matter of fact, you didn't even know how you didn't understand how there could be that many tears inside of you. You just kept crying. Something just welled up inside of you, and you didn't know what you were going to do, but then you said, "Oh God." That was Hannah. Hannah cried out. Hannah had the heart of a mother. Even though she didn't have any children yet, she had that mother's heart. There are many women all over the world that have a mother's heart. They've never had children naturally, but they have a heart of the mother. They have mothered, and some of you might. How many of you have had to mother maybe nieces and nephews? What about some of you? Is anybody in here a godmother? Godmothers. You've had children that you've mothered, godmothers. What about, we might even have some foster mothers in here. Foster parents that have mothered children. Hannah prayed and said, "Oh Lord of heaven, if you could look down on my sorrow, if you could look down on my pain and answer my prayer and give me a son." Now, this is something what Hannah did. When she prayed, she said, "God, if you give me a son, I'm going to give him back to you." And there's a process, there's a custom in Jewish tradition. It was called Nazareth, a Nazareth vow. And what that meant was, I'm going to give you back my child. Now, many people would do this where they would consecrate. That's basically what it is. They would consecrate for 30, 60, 90 days. And they would not cut their hair. They would not take any type of strong drink. They were in consecration. And mothers could do this also with children. Now, she didn't have any children yet, but she was consecrating and saying, "I will give my child back to you, the one that you're going to bless me with. I'm going to give that child back to you, God, before I even have him." But there's something that Hannah did. She trusted God. She trusted God. Now, trusting God is not easy. All right, let's just be honest. Trusting God is not easy, but she trusted God. She trusted God so much. You know, have you ever done this thing where you ask somebody to stand behind you and you have to close your eyes and then you have to lean back? And you're looking like, I don't know if this is going to work. You don't have that comfort in that person because you're not sure if they're going to be able to catch you. You're not sure if they're going to catch, you're going to be able to fall back and they're going to be able to hold you. And that is the same thing that happens with us when it comes to God. It's hard for us to trust God because we're not sure. God, you got my back? God, you sure you're going to catch me? God, you sure you're going to be there? But something that we need to understand this morning is that many times we talk about faith, but faith is when you're not sure. Trust is when you know. All right? Faith is when you're really not sure, but you're like, "Lord, I'm going to have faith in you." But when you trust God, it's like you know that you know that you know that you know that you know. And that's what happened with Hannah. Hannah prayed, and she didn't just believe God, but she trusted God that God was going to bless her. The story goes on, and she's praying in the tabernacle, and Eli thinks she's drunk, but she's not drunk. So Eli says, "Go and watch God fulfill your petition." And that's exactly what happened to Hannah. Hannah trusted God, and she was able to lean back and fall back on God, knowing that God was going to answer her prayer. And that's exactly what she did. You see, we've got to get to a place that we're able to fall back on God, just like Hannah did. We've got to get to a place that we're able to trust God, just like Hannah did. Mothers, how many know that mothers have had to trust God on many occasions, especially if you are a single mom? You know, like Marie prayed this morning, "Wow, I've been a single mom and I've had to trust you, God. Sometimes I didn't know how I was going to make ends meet, or I was going to do this, I was going to meet this obligation, but God, I had to trust you." And so in this story, as I close, Hannah remembered God and what God was to her. And God remembered Hannah and opened up her womb and gave her a baby boy. And she named that child Samuel, meaning asked of God. The story of Hannah teaches us about the heart of a mother that we celebrate on today. For a mother's heart is giving. A mother's heart sacrifices. A mother's heart is loving and extraordinary. Today, just like Hannah, when God blessed her with that baby, she just rejoiced. Thank you. She was just so excited. Thank you. Today, we want to say thank you to all of our mothers that have gathered today and online. We want to say thank you for being there for us. Thank you for loving us. We want to say thank you because we celebrate mothers that are with us on today, and we celebrate mothers that have gone home to be with the Lord. And we celebrate women who have been mothers to us. There's always been somebody outside of even our mothers that have been a mother to us. It could have been an aunt. It could have been somebody on your job. It could be just a friend that has been a mother to you. Today we celebrate them and we say thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for the heart of a mom. I know I'm grateful for my mom. God has blessed me to still have her with me. And I'm grateful for her. And I'm grateful for my grandma who has gone home to be with the Lord. And I'm thankful for my auntie who has gone home to be with the Lord, because all those women mean so much to me. And I know each and every one of you have someone, mom, aunt, grandmother, whatever, that has meant so much to you. So I want to say to all of you, happy, happy Mother's Day. Let us stand.